Tesla stock at the time of recording this video is down over 2% today. In fact, closer to about 2.5%. So what's going on and what do you need to know? Well, first things first, today was your big day this week of economic data. So let's start there. The Chicago Fed National Activity Index came in worse than expected, negative 0.34. You were expecting 0.3 positive. So not really anything the markets reacted to there. Initial jobless claims came in at 232,000. We were expecting 230,000, so that was a little bit higher than forecasted, but really in the ballpark of expectations. Continuing jobless claims came in lower than expected. We were expecting 1.87 million. We came in at 1.863 million, so that was better news than expected. The S&P Global Composite PMI came in at 54.1. We were expecting 53.5, so that was a little bit better than expected. S&P Global Manufacturing PMIs came in at 48.0. That was worse than expected. We were expecting a number of 49.6. S&P Global Services PMI came in at 55.2. We were expecting a number of 54. So services came in stronger as well. Kansas Fed Composite Index came in at -3. We were expecting -10. So that was a lot better than expected. And Kansas Fed Manufacturing Index came in at +6. We were expecting -10. So that was way better than what we were expecting. So today's drop in markets and drop with Tesla stock really has nothing to do with the economic data today. The economic data came in as good as you could have possibly expected or hoped for. I actually think some of the weakness we're seeing in markets today could be because of some of the Fed speakers and overall heading into tomorrow's speech with Fed Jerome Powell, there's going to be some nervousness about what Powell is going to say, what he's going to imply about the economy or about cutting rates. I will also point out that the markets are pricing in 4 rate cuts by the end of this year. There's only 3 Fed meetings, so that implies a perhaps 25 basis point cut September 18th. That's what's priced in by the markets. Perhaps that's a 50 basis point cut November 7th, or a 25 basis point cut, and then maybe a 50 basis point cut in December. That's a lot of Fed easing that is already priced into markets. And as we get this speech tomorrow from Powell, it's really going to slap a lot of people in the face if Powell is not committed to cutting rates that fast, or it could be seen as a positive as well if Powell doesn't want to cut rates that fast, because, hey, that means the economy is doing okay. I think one conclusion could be drawn is there would be a little bit of Fed maybe incompetence, maybe complacency on the Fed's part if the Fed does not signal multiple cuts coming this year. If they kind of say the same thing that he did last meeting, that we're thinking about cuts are likely coming soon, but they don't hammer down on that, then that may be seen as bad news. And I think Wall Street's just more or less getting ready for that, and that's why you're seeing areas that are interest rate sensitive, that are a little more cyclically sensitive, selling off more today, like Tesla. Because in all reality, we really don't have any bad Tesla news today. There's some news that you could say is a little bad, but really it's not a big deal. And that is this news, that BMW outsold Tesla on electric vehicles in the European Union for the first time last month. Tesla's year-to-date sales are still much higher. And when we say BMW outsold Tesla, they outsold Tesla by about 300 vehicles. So it really isn't anything too notable. BMW in July had 14,869 sales, and Tesla had 14,561 sales. BMW's year-to-date number sits at 97,525. Tesla's year-to-date sales sit at 178,700. So Tesla is way better on a year-to-date basis. It is also being reported that Chinese tech giant Xiaomi says it lost $9,200 for each $30,000 speed Ultra 7 EV it delivered. They delivered 27,307 SU7s in the second quarter. Fed Collins says today soon it will be appropriate to begin easing policy. I have seen a significant reduction in inflation. She says the economy is still in a pretty good place. I am not seeing red flags. She also says the data gives me more confidence on the path to 2% inflation. And finally, she says the labor market is healthy. I want to preserve it. Fed Harker says, I continue to worry about shelter inflation. He says, I'm not in the camp of 25 basis points or 50 basis point cut. I need more data. But he does say we should start the process of rate cuts and keep it moving. Fed Harker says, my business contacts want a methodical course of rate cuts. The balance of risks are more normal. The Fed must watch jobs more now. He says the latest jobs report was a bit lower than expected, not a lot. And it's actually interesting, for the first time in this cycle, Fed Harker is the only Fed official that I can recall that actually said today to Steve Eisman on CNBC that maybe the Fed keeping rates as high as they are is actually keeping shelter inflation high. Because with rates as high as they are, people are not selling their homes. Rates being as high as they are makes buying a new home unaffordable. So let's say from an investor standpoint, I have a couple rental properties. So let's say I was going to buy a new home. Let's say $100,000 home, just to keep it simple. You say a mortgage on that is going to be about $1,000 a month, maybe $900 a month, depending on taxes, insurance. The number can vary, but just say 1,000. Generally, in this environment, it has been every $10,000 you borrow, that is about $100 in monthly mortgage that you're going to pay. Okay. Well, imagine I put 20% down, then maybe my payment's $800. Okay. What am I going to have to charge a tenant a month to rent that? It would have to be $1,100 to $1,300 a month just to make sense. Now, if rates were lower, and let's say the mortgage was $600, then I could charge a lot less. Then I could charge $1,000, and it would make sense financially to do that. But again, the Fed has also been the reason why housing supply is so low, because people are not going to list their homes if they can't find a new home, right? So that's kind of just people with that mentality not wanting to list their homes. But at the same time, you don't want to list your home and then try to buy a new one with some kind of insane interest rate that you cannot afford a new payment on, right? So from all of these aspects, the Fed has been the reason shelter inflation has been as high as it is. And it was fascinating to hear Fed Harker actually talk about that. And hopefully that's a conversation that gets talked about in this upcoming Fed meeting at the bare minimum, or Jackson Hole here over the next couple of days. And finally, Fed Harker says, I am on board with a September cut if data is as expected. Part of the weakness in markets as well today could be coming from this. It says US S&P PMI report. Employment fell in August, dropping for the first time in 3 months. Net job losses have now been reported in 3 of the past 5 months, marking the softest spell of payroll growth since the first half of 2020. And here is that specific comment that I was looking for from Fed Harker. He says Fed rate cuts will likely ease housing sector pressure. I was actually listening to this live interview with Fed Harker earlier this morning and heard him say this, which I was pretty shocked when he did. And this is another comment that maybe the markets do not like too much today. Fed Harker says unemployment likely to rise to just below 5%. So the Fed is expecting higher unemployment. That is not something the markets are going to like. Tesla stock at the time of recording this video is about $215 per share, now down over 3.5% today. At one point in pre-market, just a couple of hours ago, Tesla stock was $225 per share, up about 1%. So this has been quite a flip today. Oh, and by the way, Roland Percher shared this post from Sawyer Merritt that says BMW outsold Tesla in Europe last month. Roland Percher says, I doubt that Bloomberg has the correct sales figures for Tesla in Europe in July. I am tracking the reports for almost all countries, and with some still missing, I have a total of 14,519. This number should go close to 15,000 when data from Poland, Croatia, and Hungary comes in, and I don't have data from Latvia and Cyprus. I guess ACEA will publish European numbers tomorrow. Let's see what they publish. So it's still not certain that BMW technically outsold Tesla in Europe last month, but it's going to be close regardless. And by the way, if you guys ever go on X or you follow me on X and this profile tries to follow you, this is not me. Apparently I'm blocked, and apparently they are sending messages to people supposedly trying to be me or get money out of you. I don't know. I've been tagged in a couple of these posts, and I clicked on the account and apparently I'm blocked. So I have no idea what they're doing. I am going to reach out to X and see what they can do about this. Former President Trump recently mused that he might impose even higher tariffs than earlier proposed. A 20% across-the-board tariff plus 60% tariff on China would cost a typical U.S. household more than $2,600 a year, up from the $1,700 a year if it was 10%. And you might start to get more of this political rhetoric, uncertainty back and forth from both sides, whether it's tariffs from perhaps the Republican side, or perhaps it's taxing unrealized capital gains on the Democratic side. Do you really need to worry about these policies too much at this point? Probably not, because we don't even know what's going to happen, but markets will try to price in what this could mean. And whether it's taxing unrealized gains or higher tariffs, none of that is really good for equities. So I wouldn't be surprised if you start to get, at least after this speech from Powell, more political volatility in markets at the bare minimum, especially as stocks are at all-time highs. It's pretty safe to say there's really no political uncertainty or volatility priced into markets at these prices. Like if markets were still down 10% or so right now, perhaps you could say there's some political uncertainty or volatility priced in, but at this point, there's not. It is being reported today that General Motors Cruise unit has agreed to recall nearly 1,200 robotaxis over hard-braking issues, the U.S. auto safety regulator said on Thursday, following a probe into the safety. A new article from The Guardian says that Tesla cut down 500,000 trees to build Giga Berlin. Yet Tesla planted over 1 million trees in Germany in 2024 alone. But yet there's going to be zero credit or recognition, acknowledgement of that at all. Which it is Elon Musk, and a lot of mainstream media does not like Elon, so we're not super surprised by that. And apparently Tesla is about to get a big win, as batteries may get an exemption from contentious reliability obligations in Australia. Tesla's VP of Finance and Business Operations, Srela, I have no idea how to say that last name, Venkataknam, has announced she is leaving the company after an incredible 11-year run. She says, I joined as director of finance operations in early 2013 when Tesla was a company with less than $1 billion in yearly revenues, a market cap of $4 billion, and less than 3,000 cars delivered in a year. Leaving as a vice president, one of only 2 women VPs in the company, with annual revenue soaring close to $100 billion, market cap to $700 billion, reaching $1 trillion during the pandemic, and cars delivered in a year to more than 1.8 million. I am proud of how much we've achieved together. And Neuralink has provided its first comprehensive update since successfully implanting its brain chip into a second human recipient. Without reading the entire article like I just did, Alex is his name. He was discharged the following day. It looks like things are going very well. He's even designing 3D printed objects on a computer and actually printing things to help him become more productive with his new Neuralink chip. And Elon Musk says perhaps in the next couple of years, they can get a couple of hundred people with Neuralinks and maybe tens of thousands within 5 years and millions within 10 years. It's also being reported the Cybertruck will now receive FSD in September. Parking assist features will launch in just a few days. And Tesla is looking to hire a test engineer, abuse engineering, for their semi-truck program. You would frequently coordinate and execute destructive tests and be responsible for continuously ongoing hazardous lifetime tests. And Tesla has added Hardware 3 support with FSD version 12.5.1.4. And according to CNBC, Ford loses on average $44,000 for every EV they sell, which is just outright impressive. I mean, how do you lose more than what you're basically selling the vehicles for? Tesla's short interest today sits at 3.13%, short interest of free float. You have $19.4 billion currently sold short in Tesla stock, totaling 86.89 million shares. Here today, you have return shares of 3.62 million and borrowed shares of 537,000. That actually means today, as Tesla stock is down 3%, you're seeing over 3 million shares being covered. That's crazy. That means people are taking this opportunity of Tesla stock being around that 215, 216 area and covering on their short positions, which is not something you normally see on companies that, you know, people are bearish on. So really just a simple way of evaluating big money sentiment around Tesla. They sure had a short position on Tesla, but they're not that bearish on Tesla. They don't want to continue to be short on Tesla after a 3% down day. Now here today, as far as option activity, you have 19 different trades totaling $8.36 million with a positive order value of 41%. Google Trends data shows the Cybertruck at 62, the Model Y at 25, the Model 3 at 26, the Model S at 10, and the Model X at 9. Over on StockTwits, sentiment for Tesla is bearish at 42. Yesterday, it was bearish at 43, so people just still feel bearish. Not much of a change there. As far as message volume, today it's normal at 51. Yesterday, it was normal at 49. Participation ratio today is high at 55, so not much of a change there, and really not much of a change with message volume or sentiment as well today. Tesla continues to run about 4,000 different ads with Google. And Tesla's global inventory numbers at least starting to fall for the Model 3. The Model Y has fallen a little bit recently, but I would really like to see these numbers come down because the higher they get, the more likely you are to start seeing promotional activities at Tesla. And we do have some earnings today in after hours with Kava, Workday, Bill.com, Intuit, Ross, Red Robin, Macro, and American Software. So let me know what you think about all of this information down below in the comment section. We will go over more of, you know, your Tesla information, Tesla charts in the next video, especially heading into Jackson Hole and Fed Jerome Powell tomorrow. I think that's going to be a major event that you definitely don't want to miss out on. That video will come out at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. So look forward to meeting you guys over there. Nonetheless, hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. If you guys want to come trade with us live in real time, check out that link down below in the description of this video. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.